the ongoing research programs which involve doing things together of a constructive nature.
One of your insights into the process of achieving a more stable peace is international cooperation of many dimensions.
Yes, it has to evolve. One doesn't just suddenly change the fundamental approaches of these countries by signing a piece of paper. It's rather a cultural matter that develops and creates in each of them a confidence that the other isn't determined to destroy him. I mean, it gives them some assurance that they can proceed without relying solely upon military means.
So one of your real insights into the U.S.-Soviet relationship is that it can go one or a number of different ways based on the actions of our government and theirs.
Exactly.
How much better can it get? What are the limits of the possible?
Oh, it could get a great deal better. It seems that with the invention of nuclear weapons, it seems to me that clearly was the end of an era. It's no longer acceptable to civilized people to wage war with nuclear weapons. They have changed it all. Einstein recognized that very clearly, and most of the people involved in that matter, I mean, Oppenheimer did, and a number of those scientists, that this is different. It's not just an improved bow and arrow, it is a different kind of instrument of destruction that is almost unlimited. Therefore, some new approach must take place. The competition will remain, but competition in some other area. I mean, creating the best society, I mean, the best life for their people through education and economic development and so on. It's quite clear this could be done by these two great countries. They have, in their history, they have not the kind of feeling of revenge that grew out of the wars in Europe where one country took another's territory, etc., and it went on for years. It does have a certain religious background. It is, we feel, and our people do, that they're atheists, and that's a very troublesome issue. And there's been a revival of a kind of religious overtone in some of the speeches in recent years in this country in particular. And that's a troublesome issue, and you don't deal with that suddenly. It's a development of an attitude on the part of each to the other that they're both equal in their legitimacy. This is a central problem with us, with the Russians. I don't think we've ever accepted the legitimacy of that government. We feel it's illegitimate, that it hasn't been legitimatized by an election like we conduct. But of course, very few countries have had elections. That's the product of a long cultural development, which we inherited much of that from the British. And we had that tradition of the parliament that had been developed there, although in England it wasn't very democratic, it was aristocratic largely, but nevertheless the procedures we inherited. The Russians have never had that, and I don't think they have any idea of going to that. In fact, I doubt very seriously if tomorrow they tried to have elections it would be successful. That has to grow as any kind of a cultural development does.
One of your insights is that the fabric of civilization is really at risk now.
Absolutely.
From nuclear weapons, and that we need to find ways to influence each other's policies.
Exactly. Without
a resort to war. How can America influence the Soviet Union?
Well, the way I think through those agreements of joint ventures. I had some very interesting psychological hearings with Dr. Frank and other leading psychologists of this country, and one from Canada, Mr. Brock Chisholm. And this was one of the central results of those hearings was that the best way for people that feel antagonistic to get over that is by cooperative ventures. And I mentioned these small ones. They seem to be insignificant to people, but they're very significant in simply the act of cooperating in any area tends to inspire the confidence in each of them that the other one is not out so to do them in.
You've indicated that confidence is much easier to build initially in non-military areas. One central part of trying to build confidence in the military area is arms control.
But that will come later, if at all. I doubt if there's anything going to come out of it. It's too sensitive, and neither one of them have that confidence I'm speaking of. while they're making these agreements. They, under the pressure of the events, we make some of those agreements. I'm all for them, understand.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they're going to amount very much until there is a fundamental change in the attitude of each country. The Russians have to believe that the United States is not out to do them in by force. We may be out to do them in by an example of creating a better civilization which others would like to imitate.
And there is a basic incompatibility between their value system and ours, is there not?
That's right, but one has to learn to accept the other, as being legitimate. That's what I meant about legitimacy. Khrushchev, when he came to our committee, said there's one condition which is necessary, that is that you recognize a new society. A new society has come on the scene. You don't have to approve it, but you recognize it's here, and you deal with it on a normal basis. We've never been able to do that because we think it's illegitimate.
For you, arms control is an essential part of the national security of the United States. Further, been a participant in the Senate over a career that spanned 4 decades of public service. There have been 3 treaties negotiated by 3 different presidents of the United States that were signed, were adhered to, but were not ratified by the Senate. Would you take them one at a time and indicate what happened, how our democracy needs to approach these kinds of agreements differently if arms control is going to be viable?